get all sorted and all settled in. Welcome all our little onliners in. As we prepare for a strap and block class. So if you have a set of blocks and or a strap, that will be super handy for today. I'm looking at doing some really lovely stretches. So as I said to class today, I'm going to gain some friends today. Because last week it was a challenge, I know. Now as we relax and we settle in, be it sitting or lying, we work through a slow, steady breath. And take a moment to bring the breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And just noticing that the breath isn't rushed. There's a smooth, steady, even flow to each of our breaths. Perhaps once we've observed the breath, we might even look at lengthening the breath if we perhaps are aware that there's a shortness or a shallowness to the breath. We really want to notice that when we take that breath in, we can channel the breath all the way down to the bottom of the lungs, and that we feel all the way out to the top. And in doing so, we observe that natural expansion that comes to the chest and the belly. And then that letting go of the breath, the emptying, where the body begins to start to soften, starts to release and let go. Mindful that all of the breath is emptied on the exhale. And as that breath begins to take on its own natural rhythm, we'll notice how the inhale and the exhale are the same length. Keep that natural flow that comes to the breath and that same length, the same slowness, the same evenness. As we progress into classroom here, we really want to adopt that breath because these poses are going to all be very slow and held, and we're going to sit in the poses and let the muscles adapt and respond to this sort of deep stretching that we're going to do. So whenever you're ready to start to slowly bring your awareness back to the room, just a little wriggle of the fingers and toes might do that for us. Eyes can start to open, close and adjust to the light. If you've got any bolsters or props that you might be using, they can simply just ease out from either underneath the backs of the knees or wherever you might have them, even if they're, just watch that they don't restrict your neck if you, particularly when we go into pelvic curling. We can start to strap up first of all. We'll do some preliminary stretches first, but just start to strap into its loop first of all. So threading through or creating a loop. And even if you don't have a strap, you might have like a band, if they're a band or something. That's okay. We need something so that we don't use our hands so much. The loop's about the size of like a really large grapefruit. Okay, it's enough just to step your foot through to navigate it. And then we get to come back down to the floor when you've done all of that. So we're going to have to be really, us here, and I think even online people will probably have to be the same. We're going to have to be really mindful of keeping the brain very focused on our breathing and our stretching today, because we have a little distraction, don't we? They've been going for a few days.
Really?
Out there, I don't know what they're doing something with the footpath. They're doing that cutting, That's what that noise is. So last week we did very well because we had the dog last week, didn't we? Can I tell you a really quick story about the dog?
Yeah.
I had the same dog barking on Saturday. Thinking, this is totally weird. Why? Because I heard the bark and I thought, I know that bark from anywhere. And that was yesterday's bark. So after my class, I looked outside and I looked out over there into the car park and here's this dog. Okay, first of all, here's like an X-Trail or a big kind of car with the boot open up and this dog sitting in it like this, just barking at everyone that walks by. So its owner is somewhere. I'm thinking maybe in the gym, maybe in the cafe, but they just park their dog in the back of the boot, and he's not happy. And he's telling everyone about that. I thought, poor them. No wonder he was barking. You could see the whole world going by, and he had the big door open, but he couldn't. He obviously, I don't know if he was plugged in there or what, but yeah, he wasn't a happy chappy. So we'll go knees to chest and give these little guys a hug. We'll start. Knees to chest.
Yes, can you hear me? I'm also thinking.
Maria, can you go outside? Alright, knees to chest, a little rock side to side, left to right. A little rock. It's just to massage the back. Yeah, just to soften those back muscles. Good. Now we might also do a little circle number here. So grab hold of those kneecaps and it's a nice big round circles here. Into the belly, out to the sides. Good. So the idea here is to get down into that lumbar across the back of the sacrum. And then out to the sides of the body. And then as those knees pull back into the chest, we're going to reverse the same circular action. It's all happening today. I learned this saying when I was in Bali. Bring the knees into the chest. Let's take a twist to the right. And with my beautiful teacher, William Williams, he says, he was taught this from another person. I will not be provoked. I will not be provoked. I will not be provoked. And I thought, what a great word. Because we can choose to be provoked, can't we? Or we can choose not to be. Now with this one you might also look over the opposite shoulder. So if your knees have gone to the right, you want to turn your head to look over towards the left. As that head rolls back to center, you can lose any weight that you might have on that top leg and draw the knees back in and then send the knees off to the other side, left hand weighting the knees down. Perhaps we roll and look over the right side. back to meet us into the center. Take any hands off the legs if you have them, rolling everything back in to the center for me from here and placing the soles of the feet on the floor. Here's where we get to grab that strap, so when you're ready, it'll loop itself around the right foot. Let's thread the strap behind our back, so it's going to go underneath the right armpit, across the upper back, so that we can anchor the strap down, not use the hands to hold onto, so then we're not straining the neck or the shoulder. And we can go what I would just call hands free. So the leg gets supported by the strap, but without us having to sort of get that rope burn that often happens when we really hold on super tight here. I always suggest that that strap goes over the balls of the feet. So rather than your arch, when we bring it across here, across the balls of the feet, it actually assists in drawing the toes down. So whilst I will say to us, draw your toes towards your shin, simply by even having the strap further across the balls of the feet, that also assists in that to happen. We're looking for a nice long straight right leg, and then we also want to keep that alignment of the hips and the pelvis. In order to do that, we might send or reach the right bottom cheek down towards the end of the mat, and you'll notice a difference once we start stretching in alignment. It's a very obvious stretch. It becomes a little more significant for us. Again, you'll start to notice that adaptation, as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, when we sit in this stretch for duration, we start to notice the muscles softening a little and letting go, and almost like they're unwinding. And we notice that because this strap may not have the same degree of tension on it. And if that happens, then know that you've always got that option of, of pulling the strap in a little more and keeping that tension on the leg. It's a really good, strong, effective hamstring stretch. Take this same right leg, rotate it or turn it inwards in towards the center or in towards your midline. The leg turns left. Now for some people that might already send this stretch down the lateral side of the leg already, and I think, that is awesome and plenty and enough for me. Or you could start to move it more towards the left. You'll probably notice it's not a very big movement, so it doesn't come all the way over, out near your shoulder. If you've got a really strong tension on the strap, then that won't be the case, which is fine. It's a very small, minute stretch. If we're trying to keep, again, that whole alignment of right hip with left hip, the leg rotates in, heel pushing up. And then this is where I talked about the importance of coming back and focusing on the breath and letting our mind be very aware of the breathing. Because when this gets a little tough, all of a sudden we begin to notice this breath doesn't have its length to it anymore. It starts getting short, shallow, with these little puffs of breath, as though we're just trying to keep ourselves here. And the other beauty of the slowness of the breath is that it assists very much in the releasing and the letting go, particularly the exhale. Let's square the leg back up and bring it back into center. That right leg will then also head out towards our right hand side, opening up the hip. Now you might find a little bit of flimsiness comes into the strap there, and if it does, that's fine. We just start to readjust it. You could even hold underneath this strap if you find that it wants to drop the leg towards the floor. What we do want to be mindful here is this left leg, or the left side of our body, is very much anchored down towards the floor, that it doesn't tip off and that it doesn't lose contact on the mat or the floor. Again, the other cue that I can give us here to feel the stretch along the inner line of the leg is to turn the leg now to the right. Okay, so we're turning the leg outwards, which then exposes more of the inside of the leg. Okay, we call this the these muscle groups just comes under one umbrella. Well, they have individual names, but one of the umbrella names is we call them the adductors. These are the muscles that bring the legs together. I always remember this because in the anatomy days you were always told they're called adductors because the legs add together. If it's going away from the body, they're called the abductors. They move away from the body. Tick, you've done your anatomy course and you passed. Alrighty, so we bring this same leg to the ceiling and we leave it there and we bring the left ankle onto your right leg, ankle onto knee. Then you bend the right leg. This is what we call our figure four, okay, but it's hands free. A really great way of doing figure four because sometimes we find that it's not always that easy to collect the back of this right leg. And then what I often see in class is that people then have to lift their head and their neck and then they're straining all through that area. To stop that from happening, using a strap makes a big difference, and or using our wall is another really great way of going hands free. Then we might pry the left leg away, so that could be done with the left hand perhaps. But then we're also mindful that everything else is not going on a twist, which would mean that the left hip needs to, or the left bottom cheek needs to stretch down to the end of the mat, squaring left hip and right hip. We'll extend the right leg to the ceiling. We'll slip the left foot off. We get to remove the strap out from the back. However, the left foot will now loop through. And we're ready to start this on the other side. Once again, it gets threaded behind our back. And it does need to go relatively high up. That's why I say underneath the armpit, because if it goes down too low, the back the back then starts to arch away from the floor. Okay, so we need the part of the back that curves towards the floor, so what we call the outward curve of the spine, not the inward curve. The inward curve obviously starts in that lumbar. And then we can literally use the rib cage to anchor us down here. Toes will pull down like our first side, heel will draw up, leg will stay straight, and the left bottom cheek stretches away from us, right down to the end of the mat. We remind ourselves of the slow, steady breathing. And we should be feeling this anywhere from behind, say, the back of the knee, down towards the bottom, down towards your sit bones. This is where the hamstrings come and attach. Often we feel it at the ends, more often than not, so say behind the back of the knee or the sit bones, because they're the two extreme ends of the muscle. So they're the ones that get the most sort of pull on them. Let's keep the same long straight leg, but rotate the leg inwards. So we just want to turn it to the right now. Again, this might be all that you need. Or perhaps just a very subtle movement of the leg across to the right might be what gives you that sort of final stretch running down more so the lateral, the outer part of the leg. But I still know that people feel this in the calves and still into the hamstrings. But we are emphasising the lateral side of the leg as we turn it inwards. Return the leg to square and perhaps back in line with the hip. Out to the left we go. Hold the strap if need be. We just want to make sure that this leg doesn't fall to the floor. Okay. It needs to be aligned up, literally an extension coming out from our left hip. We feel strong and heavy on the back of the right leg. We turn the leg to the left now, exposing the inner line of the thigh. Once again, that idea of we make the leg as long as we can by pushing out through your heel. square the leg back up and return it to the center. Straight up towards the needle, stay there. Left the right foot off the floor. Come and bring the ankle onto the knee. Bend the left leg when you are ready. Perhaps the right hand waits and works the knee away from us. Extend the left leg back upwards towards the ceiling and take the right ankle off the leg. Remove the strap, I should say, out from underneath the back and step out of the strap. The strap now we want to make as big as we possibly can, so just keep pulling on the strap to make it one very, very large loop. We want to get it towards the end of the strap, but obviously we don't want it to unfurl. If you get it too close, when we push on this, it could come tumbling apart. It's very, very pear-shaped strap around the feet. Check though that your buckle is off to one of the sides, because the strap then is going to, when you lift your head up, it's going to come here underneath the back of the skull. Okay, so I use the word skull as opposed to the back of your neck. Okay, never safe putting it on something as as vulnerable as that upper spine here. I usually suggest that the ears are out, okay, so that we haven't sort of pinned our ears to our head, and that the bottom edge of the strap is in line with that, like our tips, the top tip of our ear. And we need to have our feet pressing into the strap to create tension, obviously, otherwise we have a flimsy strap. But it also assists in this stretch of the scalp. We encourage the chin to drop down towards the chest. Arms can be wherever feels most comfortable. And we know that the idea of this is it's what we call, it's like a traction. It's like a traction in effect of creating space between particularly the upper section of the spine, which we call the cervical part of the spine. This part of the spine gets a lot of load onto it. Oh, I have a trivia quiz for you. How many kilos is the head weigh? I'll give you a range between 2 and 7 kilos. 4.5 kilos your head weighs. It's pretty heavy. Yeah. You think about 4 bags of 1 kilo bags of tomatoes or potatoes. Yeah. So you can imagine 4.5 kilos sitting on this little axis. And that's the first, like what we call C1. It's pretty, it's quite amazing how it sort of balances all this. So all the muscles that are used to try and keep this head in this perfect, position requires a lot of strength from, the neck muscles, the throat muscles. So the reason I say that is because this kind of stretch gives us this beautiful release in an area where there's a lot of load put onto it at that junction.
I need that.
This is very relaxing.
My neck always hurts.
Very relaxing, very soothing.
Are we supposed to feel the stretch on our neck?
Yeah.
Really?
I'd say from the base of the skull down to say where your shoulder, like the top of your shoulder blades maybe.
No, I feel the stretch.
Some people might even feel this even further down the length of their spine, like running the sides, because it's stretching these little muscles that we call the erector spinae. These little erector spinae muscles literally run down the sides of the spine. So if that's super tight, you can feel this running here right down towards maybe even the shoulder blades. But that's the idea, that long, like a long line from we call these your occipital bones underneath the skull, all the way down. Now when we come out of this, hold on to your straps, because when you bend your knees, you're going to lose tension. And then what we can do is we can just take that all the way off the back of the head, and we can come and release the feet all the way back down to the floor. We're going to take ourselves into some pelvic curl. We're going to let the strap just pop off to the side for the time being. And if you can collect your blocks for me, we are going to bring one block between the knees. And you're going to wedge it between the knees for me here. Which means that we have to be pressing inwards to do this. Soles of the feet will press down to the floor. Keep pressing into your block, tilt the pelvis back, peel very, very slowly away from the floor. One vertebrae lifts up at a time. And breathing in for me at the top. Keep that pressure on the block as we exhale and roll very slowly back down. One vertebrae coming back down. And breathing in as we prepare. And breathing out as we tilt back. Keep that press. So not only is the press going into the block, but it's also going down to the floor. So we want to press our feet down as we curl up, and obviously as we curl back down. You will notice that I often use this cue. You need to press down to lift up. So you can feel as you press your feet down into the floor and near the height of your lift, like you're going to bridge, then it keeps the hips high. Okay? If we don't anchor down through the feet, often the pelvis will drop. Let's just take another two. Keep that connection. So we stretch these inner legs with the strap. And now we're officially working them by pressing inwards. When we take our next one, if you're comfortable going into bridge, you could stay here by wriggling the arms underneath the back of the body. But if that's too strong and you want to keep coming up and down, then that's perfect too. Okay, whatever works. Pressing down, remember, to lift up. So whenever you start to feel those hips sneaking their way down towards the floor, push through the feet, lift the hips. Breathing nice and slow, nice and smooth, nice and steady. Being your own boss and choosing when you are ready to ease out of it. And then easing out might just be a little knee float side to side. Taking the next stretch into a supported version of that bridge, and that might be two blocks stacked on top of each other, resting underneath our pelvis. It could be one block high up on its side. It could be a block on the, in different formats. This is really to start this beginning stretch of the front line of the body. But you don't want to go that high, that your shoulders lift off the floor. You do need, like all of our bridging and pelvic going, we know our shoulders are on the floor. Or go that high up that you feel that it's too strong in your lower back, because it sends your lumbar into this, what we call this extension. And that compresses the lower back vertebrae. Keep the pelvis onto the block. Just bring the right knee into bending in towards your belly. And then if you can, bring your left knee. So you've got no feet onto the floor. Perhaps if you feel comfortable going longer with the legs, they'll go up towards the ceiling And this looks like that pose that we call legs up the wall. Yeah? So imagine that we've got this imaginary wall behind our legs. The spine in its restorative pose, when we do this in restorative practice, is always on a slight angle because that sends more blood down into the abdominal organs. It also then, at the same time, it's giving you some stretch into the lumbar, the lower part of the back. It's sending the blood from the feet all the way down into obviously the abdominal organs, but then into the heart, so it can be enriched with oxygen and eventually be pumped back into the system. Okay. So often we say that blood can pool into the feet. So obviously the heart has to do lots of work to try and get it from its furthest extremities. Obviously the feet and the fingers are the furthest away from the heart. If you've got long legs, we're going to bend them and take one foot gradually back down towards the floor. If you've got really high blocks, I might get us to take one of them out and have it, even if it's just not too, it sounds silly, not too high. Not too high that you feel that it's going to be too strong on your lumbar, because we'll stretch the left leg long and bring just the right knee into the chest. Check it out, you'll know if it's too high because it's going to put too much load into your lower back. My intention for us here is to take a stronger stretch into the left hip flexor. We'll weight the left leg down towards the floor and we'll just keep working the right leg in towards the body. So we don't want this left leg to flip up off the floor. And the more that we feel that we can weight the back of that left thigh down to the floor, the more likely it is that we open up that junction there between the thigh and the pelvis. Just slide the left leg into the foot, sits onto the floor, just give us better balance for the right leg then to release and lengthen and go right down to the end of the mat. When you're ready, the left leg then slowly draws in and we'll repeat that hip flexor stretch on our right side. Once again, we want to feel as though that the back of that right thigh is heavy and drawing down to the floor, and our hands just gently pry this left leg in towards us. Bringing the left foot when you're ready back down to meet us onto the mat, sliding the right leg in. We'll go tippy toes to get this block slowly out. Because we've been up high for a while, ease gradually down into the mat. And a flow to the knees would be perfect here. Just don't bring your knees into your chest. We'll do that later, but we're just watching we don't shock that lumbar. So just the knee floats side to side is perfect. One each side. Good. When then you've finished it, that's when we can just subtly draw the knees in to the belly. Use this to rock up to sit, or you might roll over to your side. And as we come up from here, let's keep the strap, and we can keep it in this one big loop. It's just going to flip around our feet. And it's going to help us or assist us into boat pose, which means that these heels get to come off to the floor. We start with a straight spine, sitting upright onto the sit bones. We keep the straight spine, but we hinge back a little, and then holding onto the strap, we can pull the feet up off the floor. It doesn't matter if it's looped up or it's not looped up, doesn't matter. As long as we've got these like reins, like we're just sort of, riding a horse. We've got hold of the reins either side. And for many people, this really helps them keep the legs elevated into boat pose. For some, it might even help them go into the full range that they may not be able to get without the help of the strap, because the strap's literally helping us keep the legs in elevation. Bring the strap underneath the backs of the knees, and now we can make it a little shorter just by pulling on that free end. These legs. And we want to think that the strap can hold the legs hip distance apart, so we're pushing outwards into the strap. You'll also need your blocks for me on this one. I'm going to put them behind us. Because our hands are going to sit onto the blocks as we find tabletop. And the good thing about having the blocks underneath our hands is that it gives us a little bit more height, so that when we come up, we don't feel so restricted into the hips. Some people might also do it as a neutral, and I really don't mind if that's where it feels nicer on your hands and wrists. But this time we're stretching the strap outwards. We're really putting pressure on the strap. So again, we don't want a flimsy strap. We press outwards. Gaze for you could be looking directly out in front, or for some, again, they are happy with their head tilted back, but that is very much dependent on what the neck says to you. Breath is super important here as well. So we've really got that nice slow and smooth and even and steady breath, watching that we don't hold our breath here. Now obviously the upper body is going to be the first part of the body that's going to tell you when it's time to come down. Okay, so you decide when that might be for you. And it may well be a rest of forehead towards the knees. As we try a second one, we'll add a leg extension into this. So when we come up, still pressing into the strap, keeping the hips the same height, but extending the leg out, switching it, pressing out into the strap so it doesn't go flimsy, leg extending out. Once again, feet back onto the floor. So pressing away, extending the leg, foot back onto mat, pressing out into the strap, leg extending out and coming back in. Those knees as we take ourselves from our rest. Let's remove the strap from the legs. Bring the yourself around onto your shins. And we're going to take hero pose. Now, hero pose isn't bottom onto heels. Hero pose is actually trying to sit between the heels. It's not uncommon that it's encouraged to get the flesh out from underneath the calves so that the calves aren't in the way and that you can sit down. Now, I'm just showing you this because this is the true pose. It's tough on the knees and it's tough on the quads if they're tight. So it's this as opposed to this. Like that is really bad for the hips, okay? They actually say it displaces the hips, so we should never, and they say you should never let little children sit like this either. It's really bad for the hips. So we would, to get to there then, we might need to do that, but do this, yeah? Because the lower we go, the tougher this is on the position between the knees, or I should say the thigh and the shin. So that, again, we talk about junctions, which is obviously there for the kneecap. The higher up you are, the easier this would be. So some people might need to go super high to be able to get the load out of their knees. For some people, I know it's even over the ankle joint. They're like, oh, this really kills my ankle joint. Now, I would never suggest that we stay anywhere that's unbearingly, discomforting, but I definitely would encourage us to breathe through what might just be a little bit of discomfort. It may ease off. And I say that because the ankle joint is a very, very important joint in the leg system. And the lack of movement in the ankle joint can really impact things like our feet, and then how we walk, and then that affects our hips, and then the list will continue to go on. So wherever you might be, sit there and begin to notice the stretch that runs through the legs. We're sitting here, and I'm saying get comfortable because we will be here for some breaths, because I want us to take some stretches into the arms as we do this one, and into the shoulders. Take the strap into your right hand. I say when I do this one, imagine that you've got a little ponytail. You're making a little ponytail out of your head. And therefore the other hand, which should be the left hand, comes underneath and finds the other end of the ponytail. So keep going into elevation if the blocks don't work, and if the height doesn't help you, sit which way is comfortable. We'll bring the focus back over here onto the arm. We want to find the bottom part of that strap. We pull down on the strap to continue to draw the forearm down the spine. Let go of the strap and find it on the other hand. Ponytail coming from the left hand, and then we come underneath to collect the strap. We walk up the ends of the strap and we pull down on the strap here. The hold of the strap and let it go. Bring the strap over your shoulder like it's a handbag strap. This is your one and only chance, Tony, to wear your handbag. You enjoy it.
I'm a bit unfamiliar with this one.
So it loops over and you hold the two ends. There's a reason for wearing your handbag, and it's to depress or draw this shoulder down. So normally I say to you, just pull your shoulder down away from your ear, which you can do, but this also helps us get that idea of pulling down. So we now have a bit of a lever to be able to pull it down, because we're going to tilt to the opposite side of the shoulder. So if I've got my handbag over my right shoulder, I'm going to tilt my head towards the left, and I'm pulling down on that strap. And as we pull or as we draw the head down towards the left, let's continue to lift the chin towards the roof or towards your ceiling. Soften the grip that you've got on your strap so the shoulder lifts back up again. And when you're ready, very gradually bring the head back to meet us at center. Take your handbag off your right shoulder, put it over onto your left. Again, using the strap to draw the shoulder down away from the ears. Then tilt the head to the opposite side. We have the strap on. And remember, then we lifted the chin up towards the ceiling a little bit more to again encourage this length down through this channel of the side of the neck. Good. Soften the grip that you might have of the strap. And very slowly draw the head back here to meet us into the center, taking the handbag strap off the feet, or off the shoulder, I should say. Coming up off these legs slowly, because they might feel a little like, ooh, because we then get to flush the blood back into that joint that we just closed down, that junction there, that kneecap junction. Coming to crescent of the moon and keeping our strap. We'll go left foot forward. Crescent of the moon means there's this angle on the back right thigh. And we want to let the hips drop and sink here. Allowing that sort of releasing of the hip. Here's where we want to use the strap. It goes into our hands now. And keep allowing the hips to sort of dive forward. Breathe out as you tilt over to the left, pulling on the ends of the strap. So both the left end and the right end of the strap. Long, straight arms. And you might even notice how the hip shifts out to the right as we do that, which is all good. Come back and meet us into the center on the inhale. Just release the strap down. Pull out of this a little. Take the strap. Hopefully it's still got its little loop around it. Loop it around this back right foot. So it's just hooked around the sole of my foot. And then you've got another handbag coming over the shoulder again for me. What happens here is that we're going to continue to pull on the strap and bring the heel towards the bottom. Which is perfect for those people who find it very, very hard to get hold of that foot out the back here. So we want to try and get the foot off the floor and the heel to the bottom. Yeah, put more padding. Between your knees, put some padding. We're going to keep the trunk nice and upright. So if you think about it, this is like how we slide our shin bone up the wall. It's the same stretch into the quads. Heel pulling you towards the bottom. And then as we lighten the grip on the strap, the leg should ease back down. Crescent on the other side. You know what, you could even probably start getting that loop over that ankle on the other leg. We won't use that, obviously. We can at least prep it, and then we go forward into crescent. And then as we inhale, I'm going to get us to pull back. I will come back to the strap and the hands, but just so that we don't fuss around so much. We've already got it out the back, so we might as well leave it out there. And prepare to bring it in again on the left heel towards the bottom. And that little handbag strap over the left shoulder now. That strap, the legs should float down. Come back and remove the strap off that foot. It returns into the hands. And then pull against the tension of the strap so it's not flimsy. Side bend to your right now. Breathing in, come back to center and release the strap, pressing back, knees together. We're coming down to the floor, making the loop just a fraction big. It doesn't have to be too big, and it's going to go around with 2 ankles. So the reason why I gave it, that's called king pigeon. Is because it can make the bow pose, which is where we're going to now, a little bit easier. Because I know for some people getting into bow, similarly to that heel to bottom, is not always an easy task. To actually be able to hold onto both feet and bring both heels equally into the bottom. For some people, it might literally be that. Pulling on that strap so that the heels get closer to the bottom. For others, it could be going into full bow where we lift the arms up towards and we lift the feet up. And then easing, obviously when you want to come back down to take that little rest, or it could literally just be just backing off the tension of the strap. If we've come down, we're going to try one more lifting on that inhale. Legs pull up off the floor, arms lift up. Breathing out when we ease back down. We can let the legs go long. Let the hips do a little shimmy. And then letting them settle and bringing the hands by our ribs and lifting up. And taking child by bringing our blocks in. We're going to bring our blocks in high, 2 blocks, hands on the blocks, head between the arms and belly resting between the legs. back off the blocks onto the floor. Slide the hands in. Let the trunk lift up. Prepare to roll over onto your backs. And you are ready to do a little 5-minute shavasana, a little relax, and then you can tick yoga off your to-do list today. So it goes underneath, if you've got your bolster, pop it perhaps underneath the backs of the legs to lie on down. Keeping that slowness to each of the breaths. Filling the lungs and the very low lobes all the way up to the top. Not rushing, but taking our time. And notice the breath soothing. Notice it calming us. Noticing the breath settling you. Just noticing the muscles softening and letting go. Feel the back of the body sink and melt to the mat. Perhaps noticing the tension just lift from the body. Just taking a moment as we bring our awareness back by moving through the fingers and toes. We become more familiar with the sounds around us. And just find a side that feels right for you to rest on. And we're going to continue to come up into sitting just by pressing through the hands and bringing us slowly up into sitting. Whatever fashion that might be, doesn't have to be cross-legged. When we get there, we'll bring our hands to meet us in the heart center. And see that we close class and we show gratitude for the practice with namaste. Namaste. was it?
It was hysterical.
It was hysterical.
I had to suppress my laughter. I was struggling in so many places.
Oh, Sylvia. No one was watching. We didn't see, did we?
I laughed at